And you got me on the mic, Thomas? Good evening, everyone. My name is Brad Rasmussen. I'm the elected county supervisor for District 4, which is the Lakeport District, but it goes basically from the town of Soda Bay, this side of Kelseyville, Highland Springs, all the way to the Nice Lucerne Cutoff, and then almost all of Scotts Valley. Well, I'm excited about the Northern Rural Energy Network. I've been working with Jennifer since they got this program started as part of our area planning council, the Lake City County Area Planning Council. And we've had her do a presentation to the Board of Supervisors and then several of our municipal advisory councils. But, you know, I'm excited about the fact that we have this program that's available for our community members to be able to get free energy efficiency kits to try to help you save money at home on your bills. In addition to that, the educational assessment part of it, which will be another component which will help you in the future. This, I just want to mention, because this comes up at a lot of the meetings we have about this, has nothing to do with dealing with PG&E rates and all that stuff. This is strictly a program that you're actually paying for on your power bills, and goes through the CUPC that then funds this and numerous other programs in different Northern California counties. But just to briefly mention on the PG&E rates, the Board of Supervisors, we are working to address that. What we're doing right now is we have asked the Sonoma Clean Power Company, which is a nonprofit power provider, to give us a feasibility study. They should be back in a couple months to see if we might want to consider giving our community an option to use them as a power provider, which could be, as it sits right now, up to 10% lower for your power bills. So we have to consider that. The board has to vote on it, and then if it did get implemented, you would have a choice whether to stay with PG&E or go to them. They have to use the PG&E infrastructure because PG&E owns all the power lines and infrastructure, but they basically rent that, and they're a nonprofit, so they're still able to potentially provide power at 10% less. But that's why we're waiting for the feasibility study. So I just wanted to mention that. If anyone has questions about it, I can give you my card. You can follow up, and we can keep you posted on when it's going to come to the Board of Supervisors. But for tonight, you know, we'll have a presentation from Russell Jonas at Jonas Energy, which is meant to also give you some good guidance on energy savings, and then follow up with Jennifer Brennan and Ryan O'Neill, who are actually running the NREN program, and to assist you with that. So really appreciate you being here to listen to this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Supervisor. He has been so helpful. He's on our board at Lake Area Planning Council, and he's gone above and beyond in helping us reach out to the community and getting the word out about other events and this event. So I really appreciate your time, and I know you've been in meetings all day, so we appreciate it. So I'm Jennifer Brennan, and I'm with Lake Area Planning Council. I'm the Energy Program Manager for the Northern Rural Energy Network. And back here is Ryan O'Neill, and he is our energy specialist, and he's going to talk a little bit later. But first, I wanted to thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. This is a new initiative. A lot of people don't know about it yet, so I appreciate that you took a little leap of faith to come and learn about residential energy efficiency and how our new programs can help you out. So with that, I want to introduce Russell Jonas, and Tanya Jonas is here as well, and he's going to be speaking to how to approach residential energy efficiency and how you can get started, some things to do, some things not to do, aside from our NREN programs. And then Ryan and I will go into the weeds a little bit on our specific program. So with that, I would like to welcome Russell, and thank you for being here after working all day in the hot sun. Yeah. We appreciate it.
All right.
There you go.
All right. So, not a professional speaker, so be nice. Now, it's good to see you guys here. Hopefully we can, through this process, we can get more people involved and try to help out with some of these crazy energy bills that we have. And I've been doing this for many years, multi-generational business. Come a little bit more from the practical side, not a, education in this other than hard knocks and seeing what works and what doesn't work. But been through a lot of training. I've been through the BPI classes, which is building performance. So I've seen a lot of, stuff that has to do with energy efficiency in homes, and as well as being in the HVAC and solar business. Doing everything from batteries, generators, solar, HVAC, water heaters, stuff like that. So I will be speaking mostly not about solar and batteries, more about the smaller things, the less expensive things, the reduce before you produce type subject, where we can actually try to get your bills as much under control before you start considering, or if you may already have solar and maybe it's not going as far as you'd like. Very often, a lot of people will want to put solar in, and then instantly they want to buy everything in the house electric, and they can't understand why their solar doesn't go as far as it did. And so there's a lot of basic things that that I'm surprised that a lot of people just don't understand some of the products and services that are out there that could help reduce your overall consumption and power. I'm going to talk a little bit first about, understanding when to use your power first. As a lot of there's time of use programs with PG&E. And what that means is that they have a less expensive rates during the day, and then come around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, from 4 to 9, you're going to see an increased rate. And those rates are getting higher, and the gap between the off-peak and peak is getting larger. And they understand that a lot of people work during the day. They don't use a lot of power. They have a lot of, if they have solar, they're making power. They're pushing a lot of their power backwards. And then they come home at night. They maybe work and have families. They start cooking and cleaning and turning on the heating and cooling and washer and dryers and all these things. And they typically are doing it in that peak high cost rate structure. And I've seen them as high as up to 66 cents a kilowatt. And you're in the same business as I am. Harmony is here. He's very good at we do very similar things on par. So, he's another great resource as well. So having said that, there's things that you need to understand when you're trying to cool your home, or if you're home all day, you want to take advantage of using your power to maybe have your house pre-cooled before that 4 to 9 o'clock. Maybe have timers on certain appliances, whether you might have a hot tub or a pool. You do laundry. If you're doing, like I said, cooling your house or even your hot water, you could have timers on those things to try to avoid having those devices actually running in those peak times, because it's a substantial price difference. Just the rate difference in those is what most states and areas, just the difference is what we're paying, what they pay their normal price. So it can be 25 cents or more to use power at that time. So that's the first part, is understanding when to use your power. Okay. Then we start looking at what is using power in the house, and is it efficiently using the power? There's a lot of people here that electrical devices are very efficient. That is true. They're typically 100% efficient. Electric elements like a water heater, toaster, oven, a dryer, electric water heater, they all use resistant electric heat. Okay, and essentially what that is for lack of a better word, it's a controlled dead short. So it's basically a lot of electrical being absorbed through that. Even though it's 100% efficient, there's no necessarily waste. It's just a gross use of electricity. And so when you plug in one of these little innocent little electric heaters, maybe you have somebody living in the house that has extra needs for heat, or they want to try to, oh, I don't want to heat the whole house. I just want to heat this one little room where I'm at. So they'll buy these little electric heaters that pull 1,500 watts. They'll run them all night, maybe for 10 hours. If you take 1,500 watts times 10 hours times 30 days, it's approximately $200 and some odd to run that one little heater. Okay, so they look small and innocent, and they say they're 100% efficient, but they're just a gross use of electricity. So you want to try to avoid things that use resistant electric heat, or for hot water, for dryers, for whatever it is, anything that uses a resistant heat, you want to try to avoid. Heat pumps use electric resistant heat in the past. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but that's one of the reasons that heat pumps have changed so much. They've gotten so much more efficient, is because they've been able to, for the most part, eliminate resistant electric backup to the heat pump. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So some of the things that Jennifer wanted me to kind of talk about is some of the basic things, the less expensive things that we can do in our homes to actually save money on an annual basis. And if you do a lot of these things, they don't seem like it's a lot of money for one individual thing. But if you can go through your home and collectively do them together, you can get your bills down hundreds of dollars, potentially a month, and it could add up to a lot of money at the end of the year. So the first thing that normally comes up is weatherization. Weatherization is basically insulation, plugging up gaps, drafts, sealing up around electrical outlets, doors, windows, interstitial cavities that are going in the middle of your house that could create drafts. There's a lot of, attic insulation, underfloor insulation, even including having block off shades to keep the sun from coming in. It could even be a shade on the outside of the home to keep that radiant heat from hitting the side of the house and windows. Is another thing. But weatherization is a very inexpensive thing to be able to do to a home. It's basically, insulation's fairly cheap. Caulking is cheap. You can do the foam around your, even your electrical outlets and things like that. That's fairly inexpensive to do. If you've got canned lighting, a lot of that stuff leaks a lot of air. So there's just a lot of things you can do sealing up your home, and that's one of the least expensive things that you can do to get you at least probably a 15% to 20% reduction in your operating costs. Is just get your house sealed up and tight. And it's nice to have somebody that's a professional to come out and take a look at it. I believe some of the programs that we're going to talk about, that's what part of what they do. There's also a problem with getting houses too tight. Now you don't have fresh air. You can get a house that can start building up a lot of carbon dioxide, or sometimes if you have gas appliances, they won't properly ventilate. You can actually get dangerous situations when you get a house too well insulated. So you need to understand if you're doing this, if you have gas appliances, whether you're cooking or hot water or a furnace, that they still have to breathe. And so a lot of people will go and just start sealing things up so tight that now they create some, potentially very dangerous situations, and can start creating carbon monoxide problems, negative pressures in the house where instead of it venting out the roof, the carbon monoxide's coming out and going in, through your forced air system or, there's a lot of ways that can happen. Even when a dryer is running, it creates a negative pressure, and so it can pull the exhaust back down a water heater in the same room if it's there. So some of those things you have to have somebody that understands weatherization more than just sealing things up. So that's weatherization. Probably the next least expensive thing would be lighting. Your LED lighting now is so much more efficient. A fraction of the amount of wattage to get the same amount of light. A lot of the fluorescents and LEDs when they first came out, they didn't put off good colors. The LEDs got very hot. And so there was some issues with the first, multiple generations of this stuff. LED lighting now is super affordable. And it's something that every house should have. If you've got incandescent lights in your home, that's a no-brainer to change out. The recovery time is fast. And it's an easy thing to do. And so the LEDs make a lot of sense. Now, if you're got a closet that you use once a year and it has a light bulb in it that's incandescent, that's probably your least one you need to worry about, because you're not using it. You're not using it enough to see the savings. What you first want to go after is all the lighting that you use all the time, especially at night, outdoor, living room, kitchen, master bedrooms, places where you use those lights a lot. You want to focus on those first. And then you work your way to the ones that don't get used very often. They also have a long life now. They had some issues with not having such long life. We talked about insulation, insulation in attics, insulation under homes, insulation in walls, which sometimes can be tricky, but if you can get the insulation values up in your house, I know for instance, I re-roofed my place and it's a flat roof. And when I redid it, I pulled the whole deck off and did spray foam, and what a difference. I mean, it's amazing the difference it made in my house. That's kind of a unique construction. It's not, if you have a full attic, typically you're going to do a blown-in insulation or maybe some reflective insulation. And then accompany that with some exhaust and ventilation in your attic if you have an attic. There's a lot of great solar attic fans. You want to try to avoid powered fans because that's just another electricity draw that you don't really need. And the solar attic fans have gotten very inexpensive. One thing to know about that, if you have a fan that's taking air out of the attic, you have to have a place for the air to get in the attic. Again, you can create some negative pressures, but you have to be able to look at where is the air coming into that attic and where is it going to go. If you put the fan right here and the intake's right here, it's just going to come in and go right out. You need to get good cross ventilation with those attic fans. We were talking about whole house fans before the show here. So the whole house fans can be a great thing for your home. Typically, we like to see those in areas where it cools down at night. So if you're getting a cooler temperature at night, you can turn those on. You can draw fresh air through your home. Also exhaust all the heat out of your attic at the same time. So you're getting 2 for 1. You're pulling cool air in, fresh air. You're cooling your attic, and it'll drop the temperature of the house to where you may not need to run your air conditioning at all at night. Okay. In areas where it stays warm, I haven't seen as great a success, because now if you are air conditioning and it's 100 degrees outside and you have an air conditioner running all day for, to keep the place comfortable, and now you turn on this whole house fan, it's going to take all that very valuable cold air that you just put in your house, pull it out of your house through your attic, and now you're pulling in hot air from outside. It could have pollen, dust, things outside, air quality issues possibly. So, you have to weigh how much you're going to get out of that whole house fan. Typically, over the hill, Ukiah, anywhere that gets a little influence from the coast at night, they work fantastic. I've seen them work here, but it's very seasonal. It's the shoulder time of year, spring and fall. They work great. So that's my take on whole house fans. We talked about window treatments. I've seen people get really good results from shading, whether it's shading by trees, but shading by shade sources, canopies, the triangle shaped canopies and things just to keep the sun, or even underneath their eaves having pull down shades that just make a barrier between your side of your house and glass and that material, even though you still get some light through it, but it takes the radiant heat from the sun from beating on the side of the house and warming up all of your insulation, warming up all your glass, and you get these big thermal gains if you don't have it. And when you can put that shade up, it almost creates like a draft of air between it that actually makes a big difference. If you got big windows facing west or south, you can really get away with a lot less cooling if you can keep that sun off your home. So let's see. One big thing in the business that we're pretty passionate about is our maintenance programs for HVAC or whatever equipment it is, a water heater, HVAC, generators, whatever it is. What we see is we put in a lot of ductless mini split systems. We'll talk about that, and they've got multiple units in a home, and a lot of people will put them in, and they love them, and then 2 years down the road, they're like, these things aren't working well. It's costing me a lot of money. Now I don't like them anymore because they're not doing what they should be doing. Something's wrong. And really, it's just a matter of having them cleaned and maintained, because they have coils that need to be cleaned. They have blowers that need to be cleaned. They have an outdoor unit that has coils that need to be cleaned. And they have little filters in them that you need to clean all the time. But when they don't get maintained, they get a bad rap for not performing like they should. And they're basically just shutting themselves down. They're basically smarter than, to know, like, I can't keep blowing more refrigerant through this thing because I'm going to freeze up or I'm going to ruin the compressor. So they just start detuning themselves. And they do that to the point where they just don't perform. So a big thing, and this isn't just with the ductless mini splits, it's just something that we see a lot. But with residential, any forced air system, whether it's a furnace, a heat pump, anything that blows air, you need to keep the blowers clean, the coils clean. There's an indoor and an outdoor coil. There's a furnace filters. Your return, having the right filters, super important. Changing them frequently is very important. We see a lot of people, they want better filtration, so they'll go to the store, they'll buy a 1-inch pleated filter, 3M, and they'll put it in there thinking they're doing themselves a big favor by having better, cleaner air, but they're so restrictive that the unit can't flow enough air. And so it actually will do a lot of damage to your equipment, and it'll cost way more to run because your system is not able to do the refrigeration cycle that it should be doing, and it's hard on the compressor. You start getting liquid back, and it can ice up the coils. There's a lot of things that can happen, but you're actually doing way more damage by putting that super efficient filter in there because it's too restrictive. Okay, so if you want good filtration, you need to talk to somebody that understands filtration to know how big that filter needs to be. How often do you want to, by the type of filter, do you want to be changing it? And how big is the surface area of it? So it's important if you want to do those things to make sure you have the right filter. But maintenance is huge. I mean, it's 20 to 30% energy savings just by maintaining and cleaning your system. So it's not inexpensive to have maintenance done necessarily, but if you go over, for the season that you're doing that, the savings that you're going to see is going to be more than what your maintenance cost. And you're also going to live more comfortably. It's going to do the job faster, and your system's going to last way longer because it's not being punished. Okay, so it's very important to do that maintenance. Now the other thing that's changed a lot is the thermostats that are available now. Back in the day, thermostat was a light switch. It was on or off, and that's all it did. I need to heat or cool, and it's on or off, and it didn't really know anything else. And your systems from the past 10 years or older are pretty much on or off. So the compressors are coming on full bore, pulling a lot of amperage, and shutting off, cycling, coming back on, shutting off. And that cycling is very expensive when they start up and shut down like that. It's not good. It's not healthy for the system. And these systems take a while to get up to efficiency. So when they first start, it takes 5-10 minutes for that refrigeration cycle to start actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. And so thermostats have changed in the fact that we're talking about heat pumps and them having resistant electric heat as a backup. So what happens with a single stage compressor that just comes on and off, when it comes on and it starts getting colder outside, it starts to perform less and less. It can only blow a certain temperature of air out of the register. And the colder it gets outside, the less heat it can blow. And when it gets to a certain point and it can't move the thermostat, then the thermostat says, well, kick on that electric resistant heat. Or if you just move the thermostat up more than 3 degrees, it'll kick on that resistant heat. And you don't want that. It uses a heat pump is 3 to 4 times the efficiency of resistant. So when that resistant comes on, you're not only running the heat pump power, you're running a whole nother circuit for this resistant electric heat. So if you can keep those heat strips off, and the way you do that is with a smarter thermostat. And it can look at outdoor temperature. It can say, do not turn those heat strips on unless it gets below this set temp. And don't turn it on if you turn the thermostat up just because you went up 3 degrees. And so it basically tries to keep those heat strips off longer and keep them off as much as possible. So if you have an older heat pump system and you're not ready to update to the next heat pump I'm going to explain, then it's a good idea to get a smarter thermostat and some sensing going so that it doesn't allow those heat strips to come on unless they're absolutely necessary. If it can't heat and it's not moving the thermostat, eventually it's going to have to. So the difference between the old style heat pumps and the new style is a technology called inverter compressors. So when they came out with inverter compressors, it turned the whole heat pump industry kind of upside down, because now we have compressors that can start at a very low RPM, and instead of coming on really hard, they come up really slow. They slowly ramp up to whatever speed they need to get the job done. And when it gets cold outside and it starts getting down into the 30s, 20s, the other compressors stop performing. These compressors ramp up and they build more pressure. And more pressure means more temperature. And so they can actually ramp that compressor up enough to keep blowing warm air even when it gets down to 0 degrees outside. And by doing that, they don't need to have resistant electric backup strips. So that alone made a huge difference in heat pump technology from what we've had in the past. And then the fact that you have, multi-zone systems where you can control the zones that you put them in. So now you have a living room, master bedroom, extra bedrooms, whatever. You can have zones with thermostats. So if you're not using the whole home, you don't have to condition the whole home. So that made a big difference. You might have taken a home that's a 2,500 square foot home and now you're empty nesters and you're only using the living room and the master bedroom, well, why do you want ductwork blowing throughout that whole house? So that's what really has made the ductless technology really desirable. We're in a county, and a lot of people don't understand, we're in a county that has no natural gas in Lake County. Okay, so over the hill, a lot of the places have natural gas, and natural gas prices have climbed a lot, but they're still way more affordable than, say, propane. Or I'm an old oil guy. My grandpa started in the 30s doing oil heating in Lower Lake. So I've been doing, that was what we had. And we had old heat pumps, we had propane, and we had oil or wood or whatever. And so we've seen the evolution of how things change. So the heat pumps are the way to go with the inverter compressor. If you're thinking about redoing something in your home, I would lean towards anything inverter. And so it's not just your heating and cooling. They have inverter compressors in the new refrigerators. They have inverter compressors in water heaters. They have inverter compressors in dryers now. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But there are so many advantages of those inverter compressors, especially if you're on a battery system and the power's out, solar, generators. It's very hard to run a conventional compressor with a generator or batteries or solar because it just draws too much energy, especially if those heat strips come on. So that's another advantage of having that compressor. So we talked about that, window treatments. So basically, if you're running a system that's 10 or 15 years old, it very likely doesn't have a inverter compressor in it, and you probably should be looking or starting to think about budgeting for something that does. And when you're shopping out there for new appliances, you want to be looking for things that are they call it variable speed, but it's inverter compressor technology is really what you want to pay attention to. So water heaters. In the past, you either had a gas water heater or you had an electric water heater. And then they started coming out with on-demand gas water heaters, on-demand electric water heaters. And then now they've come out with heat pump technology, which is, so to summarize heat pump, the word heat pump and what that means, instead of using electricity in a controlled dead short like I was talking about, where you get 100% of it, but that's called 1 COP, coefficient of performance. So essentially, if you have a heat pump, instead of using electricity in that manner, we're actually moving energy from inside to outside, or we're absorbing energy outside and putting it inside the home. We're actually using a compressor to compress that temperature and get rid of it in the house, or take it from the house, get rid of it outside. We're able to do that with a heat pump at 3 to 4, up to 5 or 6 now in some systems, times more efficient than resistant. So they call it 5 COP, 4 COP. That just basically means 400% efficient, 500% efficient. So they just keep getting better and better. So when you're looking at heat pumps, you want to get something that is a high COP, or air conditioning would be SEER rating, seasonal energy efficiency ratio. That's just like miles per gallon in a car. The higher it is, the better the mileage. So you want to get something, if you want to be in some of these programs you're going to talk about, you're going to want to be up above 17 with a lot of these new systems. And in order to get up into that 17, you're probably going to be getting a inverter compressor, probably a variable speed blower. The newer style stuff that's come out is much more efficient. So on the water heaters, now they've taken that heat pump technology and they're doing that for water heaters. They're taking a small compressor, in some of these units. It's all built into a tank. And then on top of the tank, it has a small heat pump. And instead of primarily relying on the electric elements that are in an electric water heater, they do 90% of the work with this small heat pump that actually is moving energy from outside and putting it into that tank of water at about 3 times more efficient than an electric water heater can do it at a very low amperage. They still have electric elements. You can either opt to have them on or not on, or if you have company and you want to make sure, you can adjust that. But that's the standard heat pump style water heaters that are coming out, flooding the market, lots of different brands. They're still fairly expensive compared to a standard electric water heater, but they definitely have a return on investment. You're going to see a return on investment. A lot of the newer stuff that's coming out now is using a very similar outdoor unit to what you might see on one of these small mini split systems. It's a kind of shaped like a small upright suitcase, about that big. And they use two pipes from that, so it's communicating with outside. And they use 2 little plastic lines, PEX lines, and they go into a storage tank, and then it heats that tank that's sitting in a closet, in a garage, could be wherever you want to put it. So a lot of the ones that are all built into the water tank, you can't really cram that in a closet because it needs to communicate with air. It has to have energy to absorb to put into that tank. So you can't it has to communicate with air. It could be in a garage. And the positive thing is you get cold air off of it. So in the summertime, it's taking the heat from the garage, putting it in the water, and discharging cold air. So sometimes, depending on where your water heater is, the tank style one with the heat pump in it is the way to go. It's not quite as efficient as the split one that sits outside. So that would probably be and they're more expensive. So it just depends on what your long-term, return on investment. Let's see what else. Even dryers, I was talking about dryers now. They use electric element, and they basically take this terrible energy use, one pass, air goes through these heated coils, bright red, orange coils, goes through your clothes, just bakes your clothes, and then goes out the exhaust pipe on that dryer. One pass. And it's just 30 amps of 220 power connected to this thing. Doesn't quite pull that much, but that's the breaker size. That's a lot of power. And it just goes right outside. Heat pump dryer actually takes the air and keeps recirculating it back through these coils, and it doesn't dry quite as fast. They're getting better and better, but it also doesn't scorch your clothes. It's better for your clothes, and you don't have this dryer vent dumping all this heat out, creating a negative pressure in your house. So it essentially is dehumidifying your clothes. Instead of, it uses the heat, it takes that humidity, runs it across a coil, and condensates and drains. And it does that at about somewhere between 30 they're getting up to about 50% less cost of operation. One of the issues they had with them at first, the dryers were very small, so you couldn't get big loads in them. So you might have to run 2 loads to do the same as a regular dryer. So now your energy costs were a little bit more comparable. They also are nice because they're plug-in 110 because they don't pull a lot of amperage. So a lot of people that are in apartments that don't have a way to run a duct out, a 4-inch duct, and they don't have 220 power available, maybe they don't have a lot of power available, they can plug these into 110 and run a drain out. And so that's another great option. Another thing about what makes a dryer great is the washing machine, because if a washing machine has a really good spin cycle, and some of these new ones spin like unbelievably fast, if they can spin the majority of the water out of the clothes before it goes in the dryer, it makes the dryer work way less. So the washing machine has a lot to do with the efficiency of your dryer. If you put clothes in there that are just soaking wet, it's going to take a lot longer. So, the main thing I think that people need to understand is, your HVAC side of your business, your home is probably 50% of your energy consumption in your home. So you really want to make sure that you have that dialed in, but that's an expensive proposition. It's probably something you might only do once every 15 or 20 years. You may, a lot of people only have to buy 2 systems, throughout buying homes and stuff like that. So you want to make sure what you buy, you're getting the right thing. But all these other things I talked about before are obviously way less expensive to do. And they can add up to be the other 50% of your bill, So if you can kind of focus on the things that we talked about, when you're thinking about buying new appliances, again, think about inverter technology, think about zoning, think about variable speed, this kind of things, because what we've used 10 years ago, 15 years ago, not to mention the new refrigerants. They've come out with all these new refrigerants that aren't available to be used anymore. So if you have a system that's 20 years old, it has refrigerant in it that we're not even allowed to sell anymore. And we're on the 2 generations from that coming out right now. So, do your homework. Make sure that you get some professionals out to, and always get competitive bids. Make sure that you're, checking it out to hear a different point of view from different people. But that would be my best recommendations for what I see out in homes. And you can get energy audits and things like that done. We used to do quite a few of them. Not as many as we used to, but, and I'm sure Jennifer's going to be talking about some of the programs that are available that are offered through a lot of the, through the state, through CPUC, through PG&E, that they're taking money out of your power bill to supplement these programs. And so you should be taking advantage of whatever programs are out there available to you guys. So I think at that, I'll leave that to you, Jennifer. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, we're in Lower Lake down at the other end of the lake. We do free estimates on stuff. Harmony is another great company. So, just if you need professional advice, that's what we're here for. I'd rather educate somebody. We're not about selling as much as we are educating, because we feel if we educate you and we find out what your real needs are, then you're going to be happy with your purchase. And, we're looking for customers for life, So, feel free to give us a call.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. And the great news is that this is being recorded. So I know that was a lot of information. And I know the whole time I'm listening to him, I'm thinking about my own house and all the things that I need to do. So this forum will be posted online, and you can rewatch it. You can go back to places where you want to remind yourself of what information. So, all right. I'm going to pull up our PowerPoint here. So, Ryan and I are, Oh, do you think it's hot? Okay, well that would be good. Okay, well we'll wait for the projector to cool off. So again, my name's Jennifer Brennan. I'm the Energy Program Manager, and Ryan O'Neill is our Energy Specialist. And we are with a new initiative called Northern Rural Energy Network. And we are a new program of Lake Area Planning Council, like I said before. And as Russell mentioned, everyone's paying into the public purpose program, and that's funding that is specifically set aside for energy efficiency programs. So the big utilities administer most of that funding, but the rural energy networks were created specifically for local organizations to administer energy efficiency programs in rural areas. So the NREN, which is what we are representing, is 4 different organizations. There's LAPC, there's Mendocino Council of Governments, Redwood Coast Energy Authority, and Sierra Business Council. So with those 4 organizations, we are covering 17 rural counties. And we have a number of energy efficiency programs that we will be administering. The first one that we have kicked off, and we've just been working since April of this year, is focused on residential, which is why I wanted to bring in an expert to talk about how to approach things. And then we have specific funding set aside just for Lake County for a number of programs, which I would love to show on the slides. Aha, okay, that's a little better. All right, so we really are focused on saving energy and cutting costs. And I also threw in there increasing comfort because, as we know, Lake County has some of the highest electricity rates really in the country. And I know a lot of folks are frequently either too hot or too cold. And so comfort is really an issue. We've been going to senior centers and doing some events, and people have said to us, well, I haven't turned on my air conditioning yet. And it's already been, 95 degrees. So comfort is a big part of this as well, so that people can be comfortable in their own homes. And then we're going to talk about cash rebates that people can take advantage of. And my slides are not. Let's try this again. It was working earlier. Okay, so we have 7 different programs in Lake County, and these are specific for Lake. So the first one is our residential education and outreach. Second is our residential rebates. We're working on a finance and hopefully a 0% or low interest loan program for both residential and commercial. Also going to focus on working with public agencies on public buildings. Also a commercial program focused specifically on micro businesses and small businesses. Also a workforce education and training component, so working with local contractors, but also training young people in Lake County to stay and work in this increasing field. And then also working with local governments on codes and standards education. So these are the 7 programs. Today we're going to focus on residential. Our education and outreach program is really education and outreach, and we've been going around the county and doing different events. Ryan has been at Lakeport Farmers Market a number of times, Lower Lake Days Parade, things like that. We'll continue to do that. We have launched our website. It's northernren.org. I encourage you to check it out. And then we will be doing, advertising, email marketing, things like that. We're funded through 2027, and then we'll be filing a new business plan with the PUC shortly for another 4 years of funding. So we will be around for quite some time. We won't just be in and out of the county, but we're here for the long term. So the focal point of our education and outreach program are free energy efficiency kits. And Ryan's going to go into detail about those after me. And then also we're offering free home energy assessments. And the kits are available now. The energy assessments, unfortunately, they're a little bit behind, but they're going to be launching in August. And Ryan will be doing those himself over the phone. And he will be going through the details there. For the free home energy assessments, just a little more detail. You can sign up online. We're going to have an application that will be live soon, or you can call Ryan directly. And he will be performing these over the phone. And it's a good idea to think about some of the things that Russell went over, but also to get familiar with your home. Because what he'll do is go through a number of questions and ask you, it'll take over an hour. He'll ask you if you know what the R value is in your insulation in your attic or your crawl space or that type of thing. How old's your heating system? How old is your appliances? So it's good to just get a little bit of background, and then he will provide you with the free report that has a number of suggestions, recommendations, and potential funding opportunities, rebates, tax credits that you can take advantage of to help cover the cost of some of those things. So the report is free and the assessment is free. And with that, I'm going to hand this over to Ryan, and he's going to go into much more detail about what's in the energy efficiency kits and specifically the rebates. So here you go.
All right. So as Jennifer mentioned, my name is Ryan. I am the energy program specialist for NREN. So I'm just going to briefly take you through some of our main residential offerings right now. One of the really big highlights that we love showing off are these free energy efficiency kits. So let me grab one for you right now. So you heard Russell Jonas talk a lot in the beginning about these really inexpensive but highly effective things that you can do right away to make your house more comfortable, reduce your energy usage, reduce your bills. And in this box, which we ship for free straight to your house, it contains a bunch of that stuff. So for starters, in the box we have 8 dimmable LED light bulbs. Russell mentioned a bit on how impactful these can be. One light bulb with average use, which is about 3 hours a day, can save you $25 a year on your electricity bills compared to an incandescent bulb. We put 8 of them in here. If you use all 8 with an average time, that's $200 a year you can get just from changing some light bulbs. It really does add up. He also talked a bit about weather stripping. So unfortunately, we don't provide enough for you to do every window and door in your entire house, but we give you some pieces to get you started. And hopefully, you see the difference and you see how easy it is. You really just take off the tape and put it on. And then it kind of jumpstarts you into maybe doing the rest of your house, And then aside from these, effective, easy tools to right away reduce your energy uses, we also have some cool little gadgets. So I know earlier there was a bit of discussion about these plug-in energy usage monitors. So the way these work, they work just like an outlet. You can plug whatever electrical device you want into it, and it will tell you how much energy that's using in watts or kilowatts. And you can also plug in your price per kilowatt hour, and it can tell you how much it's costing you in actual money per day, per year, per week, etc. So it's a really great informational tool. Maybe, you heard, if my fridge is more than 10 years old, I really should replace it. Well, I'm right on the brink of that. Plug it into here and see how much it's actually costing you, and then get an idea of whether a replacement makes sense. One of the last things I want to point out is this smart power strip. So a lot of us, exactly. So phantom loads, vampire loads, this term refers to the things that we leave plugged in, but we're not actually using. Believe it or not, in Lake County, that can add up to about $500 a year. So think about your TV when you're not watching it, your phone chargers when you're not charging something. All of that really does add up. So what a smart power strip can do is it can sense whether or not something is in use and cut the power to it if it's not. So it's primarily used for connected systems. So if you think about maybe you have a DVD player or a stereo or a gaming console, these things you're only really using when your TV is on. So what this can do is sense whether or not your TV is on, and if it's not on, it'll cut the power to all those other connected devices as if you unplug them from the wall. You press the button on your remote, turn the TV back on, and all those go back on standby power. So a really easy, convenient, effective way to help cut down on some of those vampire loads. So as I said, we mail these straight to your house. when you submit the application, which is available on our website, which is not up there now but was previously there, northernren.org. Oh, it is there? Oh, okay, cool. Yes, I can. Yeah. We normally expect them to ship to your house in about 3 weeks or less. So a little wait, but not too bad. And then let's see here. Okay. Jennifer talked a lot about the home assessment program, so I'll just throw in a few more things before I go into our rebates here. As she said, it's expected to launch in August. So right now, we can take down your information if you know you want one in August, and we can contact you as soon as it launches. The idea behind this is that we get this picture of your home's energy usage, and that allows us to pinpoint any areas where you might say, your usage here seems a little bit higher than maybe it should be. We know of a more efficient, maybe appliance that you could put in that would really cut down on your energy bills and connect you with potential rebates, etc., to help you get that new appliance. So I'm going to go into our rebates now, but one thing I want to stress is that with the home assessments, I'm not just going to connect you right back to our NREN rebates. If there's any program that I know of that's out there that can help you, whether it's a PG&E program like Energy Savings Assistance or federal tax credits, there's state-run programs, LIHEAP, there's Go Green Financing, there's about 1 million of them. So even if it's not one of our programs, if you go through one of those assessments, I'm going to connect you with whatever makes the most sense for you. All right, and then I'll just go briefly into our rebates. Ooh, you don't have internet? No internet. Ah, okay. Then I might not go too deep into our rebates, but we have, I'm not sure, but our rebate finder, which is located on the website, is super easy to use. All you have to do is type in your zip code, and it'll pop up with the list of all the rebates that are available in your area. Now, they're grouped, so if you don't see the exact thing you're looking for, keep in mind it could be under a broader category. So maybe you want a refrigerator, well, that might be under kitchen appliances. So, don't freak out if you don't see what you're looking for right away. Russell mentioned this earlier, but a big thing you want to look out for when you're buying something with the plan of getting a rebate is that energy efficiency ratings on these things matter a lot. It can be the difference between being eligible for rebate or not eligible. It could be the difference between getting a $400 rebate and a $1,400 rebate. It can really make a big difference. All of that information is there on our website when you're looking at the rebates, but if you're planning a change and you want to make sure that the unit you're going to put in is going to be eligible for a rebate, before you buy anything, you can always reach out to us and we'll let you know exactly what rebate that unit would be qualified for and give you any guidance on if it makes sense to change anything. And yeah, that's about it is there one more slide here? Yeah. Oh, okay. So here's an example of some of the rebates that we currently offer. On the left side there, you can see just the ranges for some of the different categories. And this list here is a breakdown of some of the eligibility requirements. So you can see by how long this list is that it's not always really, really easy to know what you're able to get and what you want to get. So that's a big part of the reason why we're here, not just to help you get these rebates, but also the education and outreach component. We really do love helping people save money on their bills, save energy, and be more comfortable in their homes. Are there any questions?
So these rebates, all you have to do is say you bought that particular product and then mail your rebate.
So you'll have to fill out an application. It will ask for quite a bit of detail depending on what it is. Some are, like a refrigerator might be simple enough that you show the purchase, which has the model number so we can check the energy efficiency rating and things like that. Some of them are more complicated. Whenever you're doing any sort of HVAC, even water heaters, a lot of these things require permits. So we're going to make sure that whether you're in the county or city, whichever jurisdiction you're in, that you got the requisite permits, and hopefully you work with a good contractor who makes sure they're, all that process is going smoothly. So we'll ask for things like that. Here in Lake County, we don't have any natural gas, but in situations where there are natural gas, you may even be asked to show that a gas line was capped. If you're saying, I cut out all the natural gas in my house, I want a higher rebate. So we'll ask for proof based on the case, basically.
But then once you get all the proof,
Right.
then you just get a check in the mail?
Yeah, so once your application has been approved, and I'll let you guys know right now, it is extremely common that there's some little thing missing. So if that happens, don't worry. We're not going to reject your application. We're going to reach out and say, like, hey, can you give me this number? We didn't have a unit on this address or whatever it is. We'll fix that. Once it's approved, then the check is within 60 days. We'll send a check to you.
But you have to do it within 90 days of installation.
Yes, within 90 days of installation. There's some differences for heat pump units because, so that's within 90 days of installation, but the timing of the rebate can potentially change because they tend to be long projects. A lot of times you're not just saying, oh, I'm going to get a brand new heat pump space heater mini split and I'm doing it, today. Sometimes they take a bit of time to do the permitting and do everything like that. So, yes?
Is there an expiration date on these rebates? Like you have to get them done in 2025, or do we know?
No, so as long as you submit the application within 90 days of your project, that's fine. But in general, everything is while funds last, right? So our program is currently set to go through 2027, but if everybody in Lake County decides they want something tomorrow, well, then those funds might not last through 2027. So if you're already thinking of something, it's probably good to, start working on it because we're not going to run out of funds anytime soon, but, sooner the better. And that way we can be confident that you're going to get it. And also, you might be saving money and energy and being more comfortable sooner. So win-win.
I read on the website, some rebates weren't available because they were linked to natural gas.
Right. So with the rebates, it's really a shame I can't show you right now. But you'll notice that for most rebates, there's multiple different what's called measures, which is basically the rebate amount and the qualifications that the thing that's being rebated, so in most cases an appliance, has to meet in order to achieve that rebate amount. So in general, across the board, rebate amounts are higher when you're replacing gas with electric. Natural gas, right. Not propane. I want to be clear. Natural gas with electric. So doesn't count because propane and kerosene aren't like IOU supplied, fuel sources.
We use the
Right. So the
when
rebates.
we're asking questions.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So there's still rebates. It's just the amount isn't quite as high as it would be if your existing fuel source was natural gas. Exactly.
There are some stipulations, like if you're replacing an on-demand water heater, on-demand electric, it doesn't qualify. There's certain things, but it's.
Yeah. So essentially, if it's replacing natural gas, typically because it's part of the PG&E programs, they're incentivizing that more. But there are some programs. The same rebate program is just a little bit less money you get, but it still has to be over a 45-gallon tank. It's got to replace a standard, type water heater, not oil, not things like that. It's pretty much you're not going to get the same rebates. Also, tax credits. Not everybody gets to take advantage of the tax credits, but there is a 25C tax credit on a lot of these mini splits and things that potentially could end this year if the new bill passes. So something to think about if you are thinking of mini splits, probably sooner than later because, it may not be.
If a mini split
If a mini split was installed, would I have to give up my kerosene heater? To get the rebate? You said no.
Yeah, it might depend on what rebate you're applying for. Because some, for example, say no existing fuel source. So that would be the category that you would be filing under, saying you don't have an existing thing, and I'm putting in this new unit.
Has a rebate system that's a little different than this structure.
Yeah, there are additional rebates and tax credits other than the NREN. And one thing to keep in mind is that the state-funded rebates tend to come and go. So they'll fund a program, then it'll run out of money, and then it will stop. And so that's something to keep in mind. If you're counting on something, it is frustrating. You should take advantage of it as soon as you can. Also, I want to point out that on the federal tax credits, we put together a pretty good flyer over here that explains the two different tax credits. And as Russell said, that might go away at the end of this year. So if you're thinking about it, you might want to take it. And you need to have a tax liability, obviously, for federal tax credits to kick in for you.
Hold the mic and repeat my question. Are rebates assignable to others or traded to other entities? Or can another person take that rebate and file it with their tax return? Or can it?
So who can take the NREN rebate? So the NREN
Not the rebate,
the federal tax credit, I believe it's the homeowner, but we can check that for you, and we can provide you with the handout. So any little questions like this, you can give Ryan a call, and we can kind of get in the weeds and help you out and get you answers for a variety of topics.
that's a specialty tax question.
Yeah, and you could also look at the IRS form and the instructions, kind of get into the details on that for the tax credit. But I'm just checking the time, and we're almost at 7. We wanted to have a little time for people to connect because we do have another contractor here, and I had hoped to have more contractors. And I know they're busy, but this is our very first meeting for the This is our first public meeting, and so hopefully we'll do more in different areas in the county. But I think just a few more. Do you have any more details you want to share?
No, if there's no more questions, I was just going to say, in general, that's the exact thing that we want you to reach out with. If you're sitting with propane or kerosene or oil and not sure what's available to you, what rebates or programs apply to you, absolutely reach out and we'll help you figure all that.
Is this program specific to Lake County only? Or I guess the
So,
question is,
so there are,
dedicated to Lake County only?
yes.
One
So I'll just re-explain it. So the Rural Energy Networks, we're one of 7. And within this Northern Rural Energy Network, we have 4 partners. We're one of them. And we do have specific funds set aside just for Lake County. So funds for Lake County energy efficiency kits, for Lake County rebates, and the 2 of us will and are administering and doing all that kind of work. So yes, there's money set aside specifically for Lake. And the other programs that I mentioned, we're going to be developing those with Lake County in mind. We're doing needs assessments and different things to find out what's going to work in Lake County, because what works here would very well may be very different than what works in Humboldt County, for example, even though they're one of our partners. One other thing I wanted to just quickly mention is with the kits, we can also hand those out to people in person if they provide us their PG&E bill and we grab a service agreement ID number from them. So for example, we've already done one event at Lucerne Senior Center, and we're doing another one tomorrow in Lakeport at the Senior Center, where we have the clients coming, bringing their bills, and we're going to be able to just hand them one of these kits. And we also have events scheduled at Clear Lake and Middletown Senior Centers. But we're looking for other types of events or clubs or Rotary or whatever where we can advertise that we're coming. People can bring their bill and we can just hand them kits in person, so they don't have to wait the 3 weeks shipping, and they don't have to go online and fill out an application. And if you know people who may not have access to computers or whatever, they can call Ryan and he can do it right there for them and get that order in from. There's no income. So all ratepayers in Lake County are eligible for the free kits and for the free home energy assessments. We just need the PG&E bill that has the service agreement ID number for reporting to the PUC. Yeah, second or third page, something like that. So I just wanted to throw that out there about the kits and how we're trying to get them out. And then, of course, rebates, he went through pretty thoroughly. So if there's no other questions, thank you so much. Or do you have another? If you can pull up your PG&E bill and your SAID number, yes, we can. We've got them in our cars. We brought them just in case. So yeah, stick around and help yourself to the food and the coffee and the tea. And thank you so much for coming. And thank you to the supervisor. And thank you to Russell and Tanya for, after working all day, coming here and talking about this stuff. I think it's really important. And I keep learning. So thank you very much. And we look forward to working with you and all the folks in Lake County.
Thank you.
Okay, who wants to take mine?